They laughed when I walked into the ballroom in my handmade dress. "Cleaning lady playing princess?" someone whispered. 20 years of shame crashed down on me. Then my son stepped onto the stage, grabbed the microphone, and revealed the truth that silenced everyone. Before you judge someone's worth by their appearance, remember that true value lies beneath the surface. Join me on this journey where love overcomes ridicule and truth shatters pretense. Life has a strange way of unfolding. Most people see me now as just the cleaning lady, the quiet woman who dusts their mantles and scrubs their floors with a silent smile. They don't know that every speck of dust I wipe away carries memories of a different life, a beautiful one that slipped through my fingers like morning dew. 20 years ago, I wasn't Sarah the maid. I was Sarah the dreamer, with paint-stained fingers and sheet music scattered across my tiny apartment floor. That spring afternoon in the community college practice room changed everything. I was playing Chopin, lost in the gentle rise and fall of the notes, when I felt someone watching. David stood in the doorway, guitar case slung over his shoulder, his eyes filled with something I couldn't name then, but now recognize as destiny. "That was beautiful," he said, his voice warm like honey tea. "Almost as beautiful as you." It should have been cheesy, but the way he blushed afterward made my heart flutter. Our first date was nothing extraordinary, just two broke students sharing a blanket in the park, feeding each other strawberries as the sun painted the sky in watercolor hues. But I remember every detail. How his fingers trembled slightly when he tucked a daisy behind my ear. How the gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh-cut grass around us. How his eyes never left mine when he spoke about his dreams. "I want to create music that makes people feel less alone," he whispered against my hair as we swayed to a street musician's melody. Each week, he'd leave a different flower on my doorstep with little notes. "For when you need courage," with a sunflower. "For when you need peace," with lavender. David's songs were like his soul, honest, unpolished, and profoundly moving. We'd spend hours in his cramped room, his fingers dancing across guitar strings while I played piano accompaniment. Between melodies, we'd steal kisses, plan futures, dream impossible dreams. "We'll travel the world someday," he promised. "Your hands belong on grand pianos, not these worn-out keys." Our wedding was small, just us, a justice of the peace, and a handful of friends in the city park where we first kissed. I wore a simple white dress I'd sewn myself, with tiny music notes embroidered along the hem. David cried when he saw me, and I've never felt more beautiful than in the reflection of his tears. For our honeymoon, we couldn't afford much, just 3 perfect days at Silver Lake in a cabin with a leaky roof. We didn't care. We made love to the rhythm of raindrops, danced barefoot on creaky floorboards, and promised each other forevers we were too young to understand might end too soon. I found out I was pregnant on a Tuesday. David had just booked his first paying gig at a small cafe downtown, and we danced around our tiny kitchen, his hands gentle on my still flat stomach. "Our little musician," he'd whisper at night, playing soft melodies against my skin. We were so naive, so full of golden dreams. The headaches started in my second trimester. At first, we brushed them off. Stress, the doctor said. But then came the day David collapsed while carrying groceries up our apartment stairs. The diagnosis was cruel and swift, aggressive brain tumor, terminal, 6 months, maybe less. "I'm going to fight," he promised me, his voice already weaker. "For you, for our baby." And fight he did, through brutal treatments that stole his strength but never his smile. At night, he'd still hold me, his thinning frame curled protectively around my growing belly. "Keep playing music," he'd whisper. "Promise me our child will know music." Nathan was born 2 weeks early, as if he knew his father's time was running out. I'll never forget David's face when he held his son for the first time. Pure love mixed with unbearable sorrow. "He has your eyes," David whispered, tears streaming down his hollow cheeks. 3 weeks later, I held David's hand as he took his last breath, his final words a whispered, "I love you both." The grief was a physical thing, a weight pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. But Nathan needed me. Those first months blur together now. Sleepless nights rocking my fatherless baby, tears falling silently into his downy hair, playing David's songs on repeat so Nathan would somehow know his father's voice. Our savings disappeared quickly. My music students dwindled as I couldn't keep regular hours with a newborn. Eventually, I answered an ad for a cleaning position at a luxury apartment building. The pay was better than I expected, and the hours flexible enough for childcare. It's temporary, I told myself, scrubbing someone else's marble floor while Nathan napped in a carrier on my back. But temporary stretched into years, and one cleaning job became 3, then 5. Each night, exhausted from scrubbing other people's lives clean, I'd still find the energy to play piano with Nathan on my lap. This was Daddy's favorite, I'd tell him, guiding his tiny fingers over the keys. In those moments, with David's melodies filling our small apartment, I could almost pretend we were still whole. Years passed in a rhythm of work and worn piano keys. Nathan grew from a curious toddler to a quiet boy with his father's sensitive eyes and unexpected talent. While other kids played video games, Nathan would sit for hours at our second-hand upright piano, figuring out melodies by ear. By 12, he was composing his own pieces, haunting little tunes that sometimes made me stop washing dishes just to listen, my heart breaking with pride and the echo of David. I saved every spare penny for proper lessons, taking on extra houses during school hours. Mrs. Peterson needs her silver-polished weekly became code for Nathan needs new sheet music. I'd arrive home with bleeding hands hidden in pockets, but with enough for his music theory books. By high school, his teachers were using words like prodigy and exceptional. I'd sit in the back of school recitals in my only decent dress, watching my son shine like the star his father had dreamed of becoming. When Nathan received a partial scholarship to the State University's music program, I cleaned 15 houses in 1 week to make up the difference for his first semester. In his junior year, Nathan was selected to perform at the annual Riverside Charity Gala, a prestigious event where wealthy donors funded arts scholarships. The invitation came on thick cream paper with gold embossing. "Family members are cordially invited," it read. I traced the elegant lettering with my cleaning-roughened fingertip, imagining for one wild moment what it would be like to step into that world of chandeliers and champagne flutes. "You have to come, Mom," Nathan insisted, his eyes bright with excitement. "This is because of you, all those nights you taught me Dad's songs." For 3 weeks, I visited fabric stores after work, touching silks I couldn't afford. Finally, I found a midnight blue satin on clearance. "Damaged," the shop owner explained, but nothing I couldn't work around. Late at night, after cleaning shifts, I sat at our kitchen table with David's old sewing kit, stitching a dress worthy of my son's achievement. I modeled it after a gown I'd once seen in a magazine that David had pointed to, saying, "Someday, I'll take you somewhere fancy enough for something like that." The night before the gala, I tried it on one last time. The woman in the mirror looked both strange and familiar, a glimpse of the girl I'd been, the woman I might have become. "We did it, David," I whispered to the empty room. "Our son is everything you dreamed." The Riverside Hotel ballroom glittered like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers throwing diamond light across marble floors, floral arrangements taller than my son, the melodic tinkle of expensive jewelry accompanying practiced laughter. I clutched my small beaded purse, thrift store $3, and tried to look like I belonged. "Name?" asked the tuxedoed doorman, eyebrows slightly raised at my handmade dress. "Sarah Miller," I said, voice smaller than I intended. "Nathan Miller's mother." His eyes softened slightly. "The pianist? Of course. Please, enjoy your evening." I slipped inside, immediately flattening myself against a wall. Everyone looked so polished, so confident in their designer gowns and tailored suits. I accepted a flute of champagne from a passing waiter, grateful for something to do with my hands. Nathan had texted that he was in final rehearsals backstage. For 20 minutes I stood alone, watching the beautiful people swirl around me like exotic birds. "Sarah? Sarah Miller?" I turned to find Elaine Bradford staring at me with wide eyes. I'd cleaned her 6-bedroom penthouse every Tuesday for 3 years. "Mrs. Bradford," I managed, my throat tightening. "How nice to—" "What on earth are you doing here?" she asked too loudly. Heads turned. "My son is performing tonight," I said, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. "Nathan, You're the cleaning lady," another voice cut in. Patricia Hawthorne, whose antiques I dusted weekly, appeared at Elaine's elbow. "Richard, come look. Our housekeeper is playing dress-up." The circle widened as more of my employers recognized me. Their faces showed amusement, confusion, vague distaste. "Did you clean the bathrooms before coming down?" asked a man whose home office I vacuumed each Friday. General laughter rippled through the growing crowd. My champagne glass trembled in my hand. 20 years of quiet dignity crumbled as I stood exposed. Not as Nathan's proud mother, not as the woman who once played Chopin with paint-stained fingers, but as the invisible person who scrubbed their toilets and wiped their countertops. "Perhaps we should have a staff table," someone whispered loudly enough for me to hear. I wanted to run, to hide in a cleaning closet I knew so well, but Nathan was coming on stage soon. I'd promised. So instead, I retreated to the farthest corner of the ballroom, my beautiful handmade dress suddenly feeling like a child's pathetic costume. In the reflection of a gilded mirror, I saw what they saw: a simple woman playing pretend in a world that wasn't hers. The lights dimmed mercifully as the gala director took the stage. I wiped away an escaped tear, turning my attention to the gleaming grand piano now spotlit at center stage. The humiliation still burned like acid in my stomach, but I forced my breathing to steady. This was Nathan's moment. My pain could wait. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's recipient of the Bradford Young Artist Fellowship, Mr. Nathan Miller. My son walked onto the stage with the quiet confidence I'd always envied. In his rented tuxedo, with his father's jawline and my dark hair, he looked like he belonged in this glittering world in a way I never could. My heart swelled with fierce pride, even as it ached with shame. Nathan sat at the piano, took a moment of perfect stillness, then began to play. I recognized it immediately. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 1. 2. One of the most difficult pieces in the classical repertoire. His fingers flew across the keys with precision and passion that silenced every whisper in the room. I forgot my humiliation as the music washed over me. In Nathan's playing, I heard echoes of late nights at our worn, upright piano, of his tiny hands following mine across the keys, of David's guitar accompaniment from so long ago. Each powerful chord seemed to say, "I am here, I matter." Each delicate run whispered, "Beauty can come from struggle." The wealthy patrons who had moments ago mocked me now leaned forward in their seats, captivated by my son's talent. Some closed their eyes, transported by his music. Others watched in open amazement as this young man, this cleaning lady's son, transformed their charity event into something transcendent. When the final notes resonated through the ballroom, there was a moment of stunned silence before the audience erupted in applause. People rose to their feet, clapping with genuine enthusiasm. Nathan stood and bowed deeply, his expression serene but his eyes searching the crowd until they found mine. He smiled, David's smile, and gave a tiny nod, meant just for me. In that perfect moment, I forgot about my handmade dress and rough hands. I forgot about the whispers and sneers. I was simply a mother watching her son shine, feeling an almost unbearable pride that temporarily eclipsed 2 decades of struggle and sacrifice. If the evening had ended there, it would have been enough. But Nathan wasn't finished. As the applause began to fade, Nathan stepped forward instead of leaving the stage. He gestured to the MC, who seemed surprised but handed over the microphone. "Thank you all for your kind response," Nathan said, his voice steady in a way mine never could have been in that moment. "Before I leave the stage, I'd like to share something personal about the piece I just played." The crowd settled back into attentive silence. From my corner, I wondered what he was doing. We hadn't discussed any speech. "Many of you know I'm here on scholarship, a gift I'm profoundly grateful for," he continued. "What you don't know is the journey that brought me here tonight." His eyes found mine again across the room. And it begins with my mother. My heart froze. No, Nathan. Please don't. My mother, Sarah Miller, is here tonight, he said, and suddenly a spotlight swung toward me, pinning me in its brilliant beam. Hundreds of faces turned. I wanted to disappear but stood straighter instead, summoning dignity from some reserve I didn't know I had. 20 years ago, my father died shortly after I was born. He was a musician who never got his chance to shine on a stage like this. My mother was a gifted pianist herself, with scholarships to schools I could only dream of attending. But she gave it all up, every dream, every ambition, to raise me alone. The room was utterly silent now. I could feel the weight of stares, different from before. The dress she's wearing tonight? She made it herself, staying up after working 16-hour days cleaning houses. Many of your houses, actually. His voice took on a gentle but unmistakable edge. She made that dress because she wanted to honor this night, to look beautiful for an event celebrating the dream she sacrificed for me. I saw Elaine Bradford's face go pale. Others looked down at their champagne flutes. Every night of my childhood, no matter how exhausted she was, my mother played piano with me. She taught me my father's songs. She worked 3 cleaning jobs to buy our second-hand piano. She has never, not once, put herself before my education or my music. Nathan paused, his eyes gleaming with unshed tears. So when you applaud my playing tonight, you're really applauding her hands, hands that cleaned your homes by day and shaped a musician by night. He lifted his own hands. These fingers learned their strength from hers. Nathan wasn't finished. He returned to the piano, adjusting the microphone. I'd like to play one more piece, something my father wrote for my mother when they were young. She taught it to me from memory. The melody that flowed from his fingers was achingly familiar. David's love song, the one he'd played the night he proposed to me. I closed my eyes, transported back to that tiny apartment, flower petals scattered across the floor, David's eyes full of promises he'd tried so hard to keep. When I opened my eyes again, I was surprised to see several people in the audience dabbing at tears. The music spoke of simple love, of dreams postponed but never abandoned, of beauty found in sacrifice. When the final notes faded, Nathan stood again. "Mom," he called out, still holding the microphone. "Would you please join me?" I shook my head slightly, mortified at the thought. But the audience began to applaud, turning to me with encouraging smiles. Real smiles, not the patronizing looks from earlier. One elegant woman in designer silk actually reached for my hand. "Please," she said softly, "we'd love to hear you play." My legs felt wooden as I made my way to the stage. Nathan embraced me tightly before guiding me to the piano bench. "Just like at home," he whispered. "Just us." My fingers, rough with calluses from years of cleaning, hovered over the pristine keys. For a terrible moment, I thought I'd forgotten how to play. But then Nathan started the opening notes of our favorite duet, and muscle memory took over. 20 years fell away as music flowed from my hands, not perfect, slightly rusty, but alive with emotion. When we finished, the applause was deafening. People rose to their feet again, some wiping away tears. I saw genuine respect in eyes that had earlier held only mockery. Nathan kept his arm around me, steady and proud. Afterward, people approached us in pairs and small groups, not to offer cleaning jobs, but to talk about music, about scholarships, about opportunities. The director of a community music school pressed her card into my hand. "We need someone to lead our outreach program for underprivileged children," she said. "Someone who understands both the music and the struggle. Please call me." Elaine Bradford appeared, looking genuinely remorseful. "Your son's talent is a testament to your parenting," she said quietly. "I'm sorry for how I behaved earlier. I'd be honored if you'd consider teaching piano to my granddaughter." By evening's end, my homemade dress no longer felt like a costume, but like a symbol of everything I'd overcome. As we walked to the bus stop afterward, Nathan squeezed my hand. "Dad would have been so proud tonight," he said. "Of both of us." That night changed everything, though not in the dramatic Hollywood way you might imagine. I still cleaned houses for months afterward. Bills don't pay themselves with applause. But I added piano students in the evenings, gradually building back the teaching career I'd abandoned decades ago. The community music school offered me a position that started part-time but grew into something meaningful, teaching children whose parents worked multiple jobs, who otherwise would never touch a piano. I recognized myself in their hungry eyes, their determined little fingers. Music is for everyone, I'd tell them, not just people in ballrooms. Nathan finished university with honors and began building his career, playing small venues that gradually became larger ones. Sometimes I'd join him for a duet, the cleaning lady and her son making beauty together. The newspaper once called us music's most inspiring story. David would have laughed at that headline, but proudly. With our first real paycheck, Nathan insisted we visit David's grave with a proper bouquet, not the wildflowers we usually brought. We stood together in my blue dress, carefully altered and mended over time, and Nathan's graduation suit. "We did it, love," I whispered to the quiet stone. "He's everything you dreamed." Last month, Nathan and I established a small foundation in David's name, scholarships for single parents with artistic dreams. The first recipient was a young mother who writes poetry between night shifts as a hospital aide. When she cried receiving the check, I recognized the gratitude and determination in her eyes. "Keep creating," I told her. "The world needs your voice." My hands will never be elegant again. Years of scrubbing have taken their toll, but when they move across piano keys, they still remember their purpose. Sometimes in quiet moments, I imagine David watching us, his wife who finally stepped out of the shadows, his son who carries his musical legacy forward. Life rarely gives us perfect endings. My story isn't about becoming rich or famous after years of struggle. It's simpler than that. It's about being seen, truly seen, after decades of invisibility. It's about reclaiming pieces of yourself you thought were lost forever. And most of all, it's about how love, imperfect, unfinished love, can echo through generations in unexpected ways, creating melodies none of us could have imagined on our own. Remember, the most beautiful melodies often come from those who have endured the harshest silences. Never judge someone's worth by a single moment. You might miss the lifetime of courage behind their smile. Behind every person serving you, cleaning for you, working in the background of your life, there's a story you can't see. Dreams deferred, loves lost, sacrifices made. The next time you encounter someone you might overlook, remember my story. Take a moment to truly see them. Their hands might be rough, but they might have once created something beautiful, or still do, when no one is watching. Share this story and help others see beyond appearances to the symphony within.